So hello and welcome to our Business Roots Chats. Today I'm with Paul Harkins, an old friend of mine from Aspen Solutions. He's the managing director there. Paul, how are you?
Good, you?
Yeah, fine, thank you very much. So, for the people who don't know about Aspen, tell us a little bit about it.
So Aspen was formed in 1998, so 25 years old this year. It was originally started by my dad, Vincent, and we sold photocopiers. And as the photocopiers went from analog to digital, we moved with it as well. So we then moved into IT, and we're now a managed service provider. So managed service providers effectively outsourced IT. So
Right.
anyone who needs an IT function rather than having someone in-house, we do outsource for them. So
Got you. So you started off selling the boxes, a big lump of plastic.
yes,
And then you moved, and I can still buy a laptop off you if I want one.
yeah,
Right. But you've now moved into the kind of whole IT solutions piece.
yes, yeah. We're a Microsoft Gold partner, and effectively we use the tenant in their platform to control the data in someone's business, something from emails, calls, all this sort of stuff. But effectively, yeah, it's data we try to manage for the businesses, and that stack of products can be used across any business. But it's effectively controls data, what data there is, who's accessing it, and when they're accessing it. So that's the kind of play.
And you say your dad started the business. So what was kind of his idea to start it? Where did that come from?
He trained with Canon Scotland, selling copiers. He went out himself with a partner. At the time, it was a bit of a disaster because he'd done really, really well. But the partner was a kind of your white gold double glazing window salesman.
That is a brilliant reference, by the way. Just in case anybody out there hasn't seen that, White Gold is a fantastic TV program.
So the guy was fast women, fast cars, and fast lifestyle. And it never worked. So my dad started the business back up himself, rather than being in partnership in 1998, and it's kind of grown every year since. And I spoke to someone last week about this in terms of it's continually evolved from what it is, or what it was in 1998 to what it is just now. And when we're looking to project over the next 5 years, and I think you sit down sometimes and you have these fantastic projections and you're just putting figures on the board and trying to work towards them, but everything we've done is probably an incremental. So everything with the move from analog to digital and the copiers didn't come overnight. The move from copiers to selling IT to selling phones to selling full end-to-end service for business didn't come overnight. So incrementally we've kind of got there. And it's quite good in terms of we're probably now at a 50-50 split on about £10 million of turnover between hardware and services, which is remarkable because when I joined the business almost 10 years ago, 10 years in October, we were probably 80% hardware and 20% services. So that brings different challenges, especially service delivery, but they're kind of good challenges as opposed to the screen's broke my laptop or the cover, the lid's too
The
different.
challenges you get from me.
Yes.
I've broken it again, Paul. I've broken it again.
How to open this laptop?
Yeah. And is your dad still involved in the business?
Not in an operational capacity. He's an entrepreneur. He fancied being a chairman, but entrepreneurs aren't really made for being chairman because the structure, the structure, the time needed is different to how his brain's wired. So he's probably, I would actually say, mentor. And he can help operationally if he needed it. So it was really good during COVID. People were sometimes COVID strict at work and COVID reckless at home. So when there was anything to be done that needed to be done during that whole period, my dad helped out. He stays quite close to the office, so things are opening up, closing, and it was brilliant having him. And he's a really good support to me. But he doesn't have the appetite to be het for anything in a structured manner. So it works. It does work quite well, and it's funny as well because I'm an accountant to trade, and I can look at a P&L, have a feel for the business where he can watch the walk through the stores, speak to the sales guys, speak to the engineers, and he'll roughly know how the business is done in a month just from having a feel for it, which I don't have, might never get because I'm probably too analytical when it comes to the P&L. But yeah, he understands the business to its core, so it's good to have him.
And he's probably one of the people that gives you the confidence in the business to make sure that you can make those decisions and apply those strategies and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's amazing what you've done because left school at 15, started sales, sold oil, sold cleaning products, sold kitchen foil, moved into copiers. No background in business at all. But he took a business from zero to £5 million of turnover. Just like almost just been that confidence in himself.
Yeah.
I don't know how he managed to run the business. He literally just looked at the bank balance every month and to see how well they were doing, which is amazing.
If it's a good number, he's happy, and if it's a bad number, he's slightly less happy.
But that confidence to go and do it, I think these people, and it's easy for me to see, having joined a business and maybe been given probably a leg up. However, that confidence just to go and take these opportunities is really what, it's quite inspiring, and also trying to kind of model that into what we're doing and providing service to customers. With IT, it's complicated, but it's complicated if you've got no idea about IT. Same way with accountancy. How do you fill a VAT return if you've never looked at a VAT return before? You'd not know what to do. So, but it is quite simple if you have the systems and process and procedure in place. So we're actually trying to instill that in the clients by we want to deliver clear solutions in a confident manner, and that will foster trust with the relationships. And it's kind of like almost like a bit of flywheel. If you can just get it going quicker and quicker and quicker, so
And then it starts to roll.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's that confidence piece, and the confidence comes from, for us, is making sure the guys know the technology, so they're continually learning, they're doing their badges, investing in technology as well. We don't sell anything we don't use. I think disingenuous. So it's effectively that confidence in what we're doing, just select the best possible solution. If it was your business, what would you do? So that's what our customers are effectively asking us. And a lot of time, people can overcomplicate things by asking customers a whole lot of questions rather than just understanding the goal and doing it to our best of our ability. So having the confidence to do that is difficult, but it comes from prep, comes from exams, comes from kind of
Knowledge,
yeah.
skills, all that kind of stuff. So, and you've mentioned a couple of times, and obviously I know this, that you're an accountant by trade. Now, you clearly have been familiar or aware of this business for quite some time because your dad set it up. And I'm guessing he set it up when you were
late
teens, early 20s?
Yeah.
Early teens?
Early teens, yeah.
You're younger than I thought.
36, yeah.
So you set it up when you were still living at home with him. So you're familiar with the business. Talk about your route though. So when you were a kid at school, was your dream to be the MD of your dad's business or something else?
Probably, actually. I think I didn't really think about it too much. Being a kid, like playing rugby, going out with my friends, but I was always involved in the business. When the business was started in 1998, my dad would be working 7 days a week, so 9 times out of 10 after rugby or football in the morning, you'd be going into work to clean up, deliver furniture, deliver photocopiers. So I was always around the business, and actually I used to look forward to working at the weekend because there was no one else in the industrial estate, and my dad just literally wanted me out of his hair, so he'd give me the keys to his Renault Kangol van and I'll drive it round the car parks at 12 to learn to drive. So I really enjoyed it, and I remember being out with my dad on jobs and helping out, and I had an inclination that I'd like to do that, albeit I didn't realise how hard my dad worked until I started walking in his shoes, and it's probably even more admiration for what he'd done in terms of he never really had any support either. Whereas I was quite fortunate to join a business with a really healthy balance sheet. Took a bit of a dip for a good few years until we figured out what we were doing. But
that's one of the roots, isn't it? You know, whenever you change something as dramatically as you do, you're going to get that kind of dip. You're going to get people feeling a little bit uncomfortable. You lose people, but then it comes out the other end, and you live in proof of the businesses can do that.
So far,
yeah. Well, long may it continue. So, so you then went off to be an accountant, though. So where was the jump from you're driving around your dad's car park in his Renault Kangol van, which sounds brilliant, and you're going out on jobs with him, and then suddenly you go, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be an accountant. How did that happen?
I think that I was conscious of, even from a young age, you were the boss's son, and I thought if I was going to join a business, I need to bring something to the business, as opposed to just join and work its way through it, or work my way through it. So consciously, I spent a bit of time with my dad's accountant at the time, a guy called Stuart, a fantastic guy, who took me in, done some work experience, and explained the value you could bring to a small business if you had that financial discipline. So that was kind of the route to it. And then, but also was kind of the fallback of, well, you can go and do this. If it doesn't work out with the business, then you're still a CA and you can still go and get a job somewhere else. So
everyone's always going to need accountants.
yeah.
So there's obviously been a few kind of challenges, bumps in the road along the way. But what kind of things have you faced?
Well, probably the biggest challenge I faced early on in my career was I really struggled with the accountancy exams. So I failed the same exam 3 times when I was at RSM 10, and part of the training contract was that you weren't supposed to get a second, or you weren't supposed to get a third resit, but it was really unusual for someone to go to a 4th resit. So I was let go of my training contract 2 years into my my career as a fledgling accountant. I had to then sit the exam, pay for it and sit the exam myself, almost kind of in a class of one. Because I'd started this CA journey, I really wanted to finish it, and I found that probably when I look back now, I didn't have any work, so I was actually working for one of the clients at RSM 10 as a plumber's mate, and I gave my taste for what I didn't want to do or be doing for the rest of my life. But I remember going along to job interviews, and there was loads of job interviews to be a kind of general accountant and move into that space. And I found that probably because I was quite focused on wanting to finish off my CA, there wasn't that many opportunities. So there was a lot of rejection from a lot of interviews I went to. So that was quite difficult.
So you're still trying to become a chartered accountant?
Yeah.
But you're working as a plumber?
Well,
or a plumber's mate?
Plumber's mate, yeah.
Well, a plumber's mate, I'm imagining, is the guy that kind of, the plumber's underneath the sink fixing the, all the glamorous stuff, and you're handing him bits of pipe.
Yep.
Fundamentally is what you were doing. Okay, and when you paid for your 4th resit of the exam, did you pass it the 4th time?
Yes.
Probably because you'd paid for it yourself, is that what you're saying?
No, it wasn't. I think I just didn't understand what they were asking. So to be fair, ICAS gave me loads of help in terms of, this is what we're asking you, so you need to look at the questions. And so that was there was extra study support, and effectively I got through it. I passed it quite well, but it was quite nerve-wracking because I hadn't passed that exam. My career prospects as a CA.
Would you have given up if you hadn't passed that? Would you have just stopped?
If I'd failed the exam, there's not a 5th resit, so there's only 4 resits.
So they won't let you do it?
Yeah.
At all? I'd have been sitting in now talking to a plumber's mate.
Yeah.
Or if all had gone well, a plumber.
Plumber, yeah. If I'd managed to pass my...
Fantastic. And then, so you passed it the 4th time. And then when you joined Aspen, I think you joined as financial director, didn't you?
Yes. There was a bit of a route to get there, but yeah, and that was probably the next big challenge, was that one, I probably over promoted myself because of nepotism from being my dad's business, but also as well then that challenge of dealing with people, which is something as being an accountant you don't really get trained for, and that was probably the most challenging. And I wouldn't say I've probably got better at dealing with people, but I've not completed that task because it's very difficult.
You're on your 4th resit on that.
Right, yeah. So people's now probably the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
Attracting, retaining good people is what we find most difficult in our business, especially trying to move to more and more professional services as opposed to just IT hardware. So yeah, that's a big challenge.
And that's where you want to go with the growth of the business. What you need is more good people who are then able to train them properly, give them more skills, give them job security, going back to all the stuff you were talking about before. Okay, so that takes us up to where we are now. What's next for you?
For me, this was probably hard to separate between me and the business, because kind of morph into that one entity at times. But what's next for us, i.e. me and the business, is continued growth. We want to get to £50 million of service income in the next 5 years. We need people to do that. The market's changing more towards cyber security as opposed to IT support. And we've got a challenge to find new staff, retain the staff we've got, and upskill them to meet those challenges. But that's where we see the growth in the business over the next 5 years. And if in 5 years' time we've got a fantastic business that runs itself, then I'll be really happy with that. And it's just about empowering people around about me to step up and create more value, and everyone gets a bit more money out of it. So
Superb. And do you see Aspen as kind of your baby now? Do you feel your dad's passed it on to you?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I think my dad's probably identity was closer knit to Aspen than mine's, essentially, because I probably had a life before it. Probably my identity split wrapped into being an accountant as well. But there's really key people in the business now, and I kind of see that they treat the business the same way that I treat the business. So I feel that the team that I've got around me almost help carry that identity, and and that's that I'd like to do is broaden that out so more people can get bought in, more people can get what I get from it, and we'll make some. Basically, what we'll do is create company wealth, and what we see company wealth is obviously return for the shareholders, but what that actually means is that it's more opportunities for the staff, more money for the staff, and job security for the staff,
which is massively important.
So we really look to create that company wealth, and that's how we can try and get the buy-in from the guys. But yeah, that's the plans.
Superb. Now imagine, Paul, you're walking around that industrial estate that your dad had his kind of first office in, and you see the young Paul Harkins driving around in the Renault Kangoo van, 12 years old, little blocks on his feet, trying to drive the van. What advice would you give that young man now, knowing what you know?
I think if you're want to join a family business, I think you need to go and see how other people do things.
Mm-hmm.
I think to just go straight into a family business, and you're only ever going to be as good as or worse than the person that you're inheriting the business of, because you're copying their business ideas and what they want to do. And I think that diversity, there's not really any new ideas anymore. It's almost just a knitting together of what people are doing, and when I'm working with tenants, seeing in the backs of how people made money, how people treated their staff, how people done stuff, and also having different managers, good managers, bad managers. Sometimes you learn more off of having bad managers as opposed to good managers. So yeah, I think to go and see a bit of how other people do things before you jump in the family business,
to get a little bit of wider experience, business experience, and then bring some of those bits of knowledge and advice and experience back into the into the family business. And
longevity. When I first joined the business, I thought that you just run about meeting people you knew from your previous life, and they would just sign up and they'd be fantastic.
I learned that lesson fairly quickly as well. Yeah,
but
I remember those days.
A couple of years into it, you start to get some opportunities. 5 years in, you get more opportunities. 10 years into now, there isn't a month goes by that someone will say, "Can you come look at this for us?" Just because I think with us people are just comfortable. And 10 years when you're young seems like a huge amount of time, but in businesses it's not a huge amount of time.
So quicker. We're all getting older. Superb. Listen, thank you, Paul. Thanks for joining us today. That's excellent, and an absolute pleasure to speak to, and always a pleasure to see you as well. So thank you very much indeed.
Cheers, Matthew.
And thank you to everybody out there for joining us on this Business Roots chat as well. I hope you've learned a little bit about Paul and his journey, a little bit about Aspen. If you think that you might need some IT solutions, then obviously Paul will be very pleased to hear from you, so give him a shout. And of course, we have more of these Business Roots chats at your usual podcast platforms. So have a look, check them out, and hopefully we'll see you all again soon.